Alright, shalom, Hebrews. This Israel being Israel for the Israelite brotherhood. It's Israel being Israel for the Israelite brotherhood. And I'm finna do this video about these brothers still debating that 10 lost tribe chart in history and still trying to pass that stuff off as legit and stuff. And I done show these brothers, especially the Deacon Sakari brother, you know what I'm saying? I done showed him plenty times. We even friends on Facebook and stuff. He know, you know what I'm saying, that I done showed him over and over, and that I post this all the time on my page, that it was never any lost tribes, and then how that's Jewish history. You see what I'm saying? And how those are Jewish myths and stuff, and how these brothers need to cut that mess out and quit trying to pass that garbage off as legitimate history. You see what I'm saying? See, that junk is crazy and stuff. But I'm going to show you brothers again, and I'm going to show everybody. You see what I'm saying? And how these brothers, I don't know what they plan is or what they got going on and stuff, and why they keep trying to abuse the Hebrews mind that don't know and stuff, and how they mislead them, especially after they done been showed some truth and stuff. You see what I'm saying? So that mess don't make no sense, and it's got to be something up with this, because after you done show the brother and they can research this plainly and see this as clearly as day, and then they still go on pushing some other agenda that's not Hebrew Israelite, then something up. You see what I'm saying? Something up. You know, a lot of us like the following and like for people to respect you and look up to you as if you know something and stuff. But man, it's time to really analyze these cats that profess to know the history and stuff, and especially if you got some other history that you can weigh what they saying against. You see what I'm saying? We're gonna have to start putting them up against history that's better than theirs. You see what I'm saying? Some history that you can see that's the truth. You got to put their history up against theirs and stuff, so they could start falling off with their stuff and start falling in line with the true history like they supposed to. You know what I'm saying? That's like the Israelite brotherhood. I ain't trying to save you as an individual. I'm trying to save us. You see what I'm saying? Because we got to have correct history. And when these brothers pushing that Jewish histories, those myths and stuff, then they prolonging us coming into heritage. And then they have a big following, and it's amazing. And it seemed like that the Hebrews are kind of like still like the ones in the biblical days, how you will gravitate toward garbage and bullcrap history that your ears tingle to hear all that stuff. You know, them guys sound like rocket scientists, like they really know something. You know what I'm saying? And then you got to start comparing these people on the level with Moses. You see what I'm saying? See, Moses wasn't eloquent, and he couldn't talk real good. You see what I'm saying? And it's been acknowledged that he stuttered and so forth. You see what I'm saying? So, you know, the history, man, it ain't 9 out of 10 gonna come with these old eloquent sounding dudes that, you know, the debate artists and all that old stuff. You really ain't gonna get no history with them, because they kind of like polish their angle and stuff, and they be trying to push that, and they stay in the arena that, you know what I'm saying, that they like to debate in, or that they feel comfortable with. And when you bring some real history to these brothers that they just have to ponder over, because if you debate it, they don't do nothing but try to talk you out some real history and then let it roll on. You see what I'm saying? But when you got some history that they can go over and see plainly, then it's got to be something that they got to feel inside. You see what I'm saying? And that's what I'm saying, because I done showed this cat over and over and over, you know what I'm saying, how it's no 10 lost tribes. You see what I'm saying? And then they stay going to the book of Hosea. They be going to the book of Hosea that was wrote in 753 BC, like 31 years before the Assyrian little trouble started in 722 BC. You know what I'm saying? Or you know what I'm saying, around about that time. You see what I'm saying? So you know, these brothers' history is off, and they don't know the dates of the books. They don't know the times or when this happened or when that happened. These brothers, you know what I'm saying? Man, their history just be pure whack because they be using Jewish history. See, I be steady explaining to you brothers that it's a such thing as Jewish myths. You see what I'm saying? And that's the history that they be pushing. You know what I'm saying? Listen to this, brother. Listen to him. This junk
That's
whack.
Okay. They call them Ephraim too. Not saying that there is Ephraim. But they keep the customs too.
Yeah, I agree. Over in the west coast of Africa, a lot of those tribes, they keep the customs. They kind of know some of the history. We know every single Southern Kingdom member didn't. Every single last Southern Kingdom member didn't get on the ship. So we know our people's over there.
That's blasphemous right there. That's like going up against the Creator. That's like going up against Almighty Yah. Almighty Yah said that you'll be taken to Egypt in ships with yokes on your neck. So how is it possible that some Hebrews lingered and stayed in Africa when it took like 275 years to remove us? You see what I'm saying? I mean, it took almost almost 300 years to remove us from, you know what I'm saying, from Africa, around about 275 years. You know what I'm saying? You know when they say that the slave trade started around about 1619. Some will argue a little bit before, but anyway, you know, it took them all the way up to the 1800s. You know, they didn't stop bringing ships, slave people into this country into about 1860. You know what I'm saying? They abolished slavery in 1868. You see what I'm saying? So, man, they brung us up here, you know what I'm saying, from Africa all the way to the last part. And that's probably when they start bringing the Hamites over from greed. And then they sent them back to Liberia. You see what I'm saying? Because they didn't suffer the atrocities that the people who was brung here during the transatlantic trade, slave trade during this peak, and what we experienced. Our history is identical to the curses. So it's kind of wrong to say that some of the Hebrews stayed in Africa. You see, that show that your history is all the way off. If it's off on the Assyrian captivity, then it's going to be off on all other aspects of the history and stuff. You see, that's what I be explaining in the videos, that if your leader, if you got these guys and you calling them your leader, and then their history is off on big major things, then man, their history gonna be off on a whole bunch of things. And what you look like being programmed with some false history for when it's real history out. You see what I'm saying? And when you come across some real history, you got to let the old history go, the lies and the myths. That's how you progress and move up in your heritage, in your history. But if you stay stuck with those Jewish myths that the Babylonian scribes created, then you're going to stay down there, down there with the lies that they created. And ain't no telling what, you know what I'm saying, you'll consume down on that level. You see what I'm saying? I think that stuff be making some of the people crazy and stuff because they be believing in lies and myths and stuff. Well, basically all you got to do is trust the Tanakh. The Tanakh will show you. The Tanakh is what we are responsible for. We had Hebrew scribes too that put our history together. You see what I'm saying? We had schools with people that was inspired by the Creator. They had prophets in schools, and them folks wrote down words that was dictated probably by the heavenly host. So our history was kept up with, and that's why I come is in so much detail with this person was speaking, and it's like they knew everything about them. You see what I'm saying? That's because we was up under the covenant, and our whole actions, everything about us was being recorded. You see what I'm saying? Everything was being recorded to the time that we was cut off. Basically, during the Babylonians, basically during the Persian time, when the exiles come back and they was destroyed. When the exiles come back from their captivity, they was destroyed by the Greeks, and that happened so fast. But this what I want to show, how it wasn't no 10 lost tribes, or no lost tribes period, and how we all went into Africa, and how these brothers is teaching false history. You see what I'm saying? And how they teaching false history. You see what I'm saying? Man, they teaching false history, man. They teaching false history, and ain't no sense walking around with no false history when the truth is out here. You see what I'm saying? See, I ain't trying to dog the brother. I keep trying to help them. You see, but I guess they so buried in the lies, in the myths that they spreading, that they will feel unmanly to come out them lies. Basically, when you come out a lie and embrace the truth, that's what make you a real man. You see what I'm saying? So let's go to Second Chronicles. Let's put some biblical verses on it real quick, and then I'm gonna talk about the things that the people, like they say, that during the Assyrian captivity, they be reading them books that the Babylonian scribes created, which is every book outside the Tanakh. They created a whole bunch of myths, and they be believing in them books, talking about that the Hebrews went to Assyria and that the Syrians came. Now they don't even understand the Assyrian Empire and what the Assyrians were about. That was a war nation. They kidnapped their armies and forced their armies into their armies, and then made them fight. You see what I'm saying? And that Assyria whole time was fighting against the Scythian like element, the people that come from the Caucasus Mountain. You see what I'm saying? It's like I got videos showing you how them folks went and kicked it. Them Scythians came and kicked it in Assyria, and how they got real deep and stuff, and how the Syrians couldn't get them out to the last part, and how they destroyed Assyria. You see what I'm saying? I got videos explaining this, how them folks destroyed Assyria, the Scythians, and got into Babylon and all those nations, you know what I'm saying, before they came to our land and settled. So it was a lot going on during that time, the history that's basically not being taught in the Hebrew community to now. You see what I'm saying? And this is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. This Israel being Israel. All right. If you go to Second Chronicles, chapter 30, you dealing with King Hezekiah. And he was around during the Assyrian troubles. He was around during the last little part of it. This is around about 715 BC. We know that the Assyrian Empire was crushed by Ashkenazi under the name Scythian in 612 BC, when King Midas and got his crew together and got Media, the Cimmerians, the Scythians, the Chaldeans, all those folks, and got them together, and they went and destroyed Assyria, tore a hole in Assyria, knocked Assyria off the face of this earth. Ethnic cleansed them folks, cut their heads off and rolled and put their heads on horses. They destroyed Assyria. You see what I'm saying? And Assyria was on the run, man, around about 620. About 625, they was working on Assyria. They was picking Assyria off. Assyria was down to its last little strength. And how the other nations overcame Assyria and destroyed Assyria from history. And they got it in history how they was ethnic cleansed, how they butchered hundreds of thousands of them, massacred whole towns. The Scythians did. The people that was on horses that came to destroy us Hebrews, the one that the Creator sent after us, the ones that settled in the Discopolis cities. You see what I'm saying? And so Assyria was destroyed, and the prophets who prophesied Assyria's destruction, the prophets who prophesied Assyria's destruction was Prophet Nahum. You see what I'm saying? He prophesied the Assyrians' destruction. And the Syrians destruction came fast too. After this prophet Nahum prophesied, you know what I'm saying, Assyria's destruction, it came fast. You know what I'm saying? It came real fast. And the prophet Jonah had went to Assyria in 760 BC, and he tried to get Assyria to stop kicking it with them Scythians. You know, he tried to get them to stop kicking it with them Scythians, and told them to get them folks about their nation, and that them folks was gonna get them, and them folks wouldn't listen. So Assyria got knocked off the face of this earth. But Assyria was a war nation, and Assyria kidnapped other armies and then incorporated them into their armies. You know, that's all Assyria did. They would go take another army and put them in their army and make them fight. And that's what they did to us Hebrews. That's what they did to us Hebrews. They took us Hebrews, the northern kingdom where the fighters was, and took them to Assyria to fight against the Scythians and the other people. And I'm gonna show that too. You know what I'm saying? How they just kidnapped the fighters, and it wasn't no 10 lost tribes or no missing large numbers of our people, and how everybody was still around after the Assyrian captivity. Like I say, they be using the Hosea history from 753 BC, like 31 years before the Syrian captivity and stuff. They be using his history and then try to fit that into the Assyrian captivity, and it don't match, and it ain't gonna go together, because it's two different, you know, events and stuff. You know what I'm saying? The tribes wasn't in captivity, and you brothers be using Jewish history, and Jewish history is gonna be all the history like the 10 lost tribes. Israelites ran into Africa in 70 AD. Everybody is an Israelite. Hebrews didn't get on the ships, and some did and some didn't. Like that brother said, that jump per crazy. And demigod worship. You know what I'm saying? It's a whole bunch of myths, but those are the ones that the Hebrews basically believe in, that keep them confused about the real history and stuff. You know what I'm saying? That's like, you know, the Hebrews don't know that that Assyria needed, you know, our soldiers. But let's go to 2 Chronicles 30, and then let's see what King Hezekiah have to say. And this is after the Assyrian captivity. This is like in 715 BC. This is 7 years. This is about the time the Sephardims, the Sephardi Jews, would have been placed in our land for man, they'd have been there for 7 years, you know, from 722 BC, when the king of Assyria placed them there. Them Babylonian scribes, they'll be in our land for 7 years, when King Hezekiah called everybody to the Passover dinner. And this showed that everybody was still in the land. All right. And Hezekiah sent, this is 2 Chronicles chapter 30. And Hezekiah sent to all Israel and Judah and wrote letters unto Ephraim and Manasseh that they should come to the house of the Elohim at Jerusalem to keep the Passover unto the Elohim of Israel. For the king had taken counsel and his princes and all the congregation of Jerusalem in Jerusalem to keep the Passover in the second month, for they could not keep it at that time, because the priests had not sanctified themselves sufficiently, neither had the people gathered themselves together to Jerusalem. And the thing pleased the king and all the congregation, so they established a decree and made proclamation throughout all Israel, from Beersheba even to Dan, that they should come to keep the Passover unto the Elohim Yah of Israel at Jerusalem, for they had not done it of a long time in such sort as it was written. Now, man, let's go look and see what Beersheba to Dan is, because it's important to get an understanding of that. So, once we got that understanding, then, you know what I'm saying, we can kind of like, it all come together. All right. So we see right here. All right, we see Beersheba. All right, but we see Beersheba. All right, that's in Simon and Judah. That's what King Hezekiah was. All right, and he said he sent the letter from Beersheba to Dan. So, you know what I'm saying? You see all them towns. You see what I'm saying? You see all them towns, and you see all them tribes. You see all them tribes, and then you see Dan right there, and then you see little Chish right there. So King Hezekiah sent the letter from Beersheba, right there, all the way to the end of our land, you know what I'm saying, that we had, conquered to Dan. You see what I'm saying? So that's all the tribes. So it wouldn't make no sense for him to send a letter from Beersheba all the way to Dan if ain't nobody there. You see what I'm saying? If everybody been taken away during the Assyrian time, it don't make no sense. That don't make no sense. So we know that didn't happen. You see what I'm saying? That's our inheritance. You see what I'm saying? That's all the tribes. Look, all right. That's Judah. That's Simon. You know what I'm saying? From Beersheba all the way to Dan, like King Hezekiah said. So, you know what I'm saying? We got that understanding. Ain't no misunderstanding about that. All right. So they established a decree to make proclamations throughout all Israel, from Beersheba even to Dan, that they should come to keep the Passover unto the Elohim Yah of Israel at Jerusalem, for they had not done it of a long time in such sort as it was written. So the post went with the letters from the king and his princes throughout all Israel and Judah, according to the commandment of the king, saying, Ye children of Israel, turn again unto the Elohim Yah of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, and he will return to the remain of you that are escaped out of the hand of the king of Assyria. You see what I'm saying? So how many folks escaped out of the hands of the king of Assyria? I don't think King Hezekiah would say that they escaped out of the hands of the king of Assyria, and then they really didn't. It wouldn't make no sense for him to send a letter from one end of our inheritance all the way to the other, asking them to come to the Passover if everybody was gone and taken away. It don't make no sense. So this history that these dudes be pushing is whack, and it's another agenda working and stuff. I don't know if they getting paid or what's going on. You see what I'm saying? But they been showed true history already on Facebook. You see what I'm saying? So, I'm doing this again in the videos, and maybe this will sink in. You see what I'm saying? All right. So we know that they escaped the king of Assyria. So let's see if he named some of the tribes. Let me see. All right. So then as you read on down, and then you get down to 10. So the post passed from city to city through the country of Ephraim, Manasseh, even unto Zebulun, but they laughed them to scorn and mocked them. Now that's crazy. Now this is 7 years after the Assyrian captivity. You know what I'm saying? After the Assyrian wars, and Assyria was still hanging around, but this was starting to be at the last part of it because they was finna start to get taken down for coming in the land trespass. So the Assyrians didn't take all the tribes. They only took the fighters. As you can see that these tribes are still mentioned. Also, all right, so the post passed from city to city through the country of Ephraim and Manasseh, even unto Zebulun, but they laughed them to scorn and mocked them. Nevertheless, diverse of Asher and Manasseh and Zebulun humbled themselves and came unto Jerusalem. You see what I'm saying? So they came to Jerusalem. So as you read, the people starting to gather themselves. You know what I'm saying? The Levites getting themselves together, and you know what I'm saying? And they coming and they killing the Passover. And then as you read down, and then you get down to verse 18, for a multitude of the people, even many of Ephraim and Manasseh, Ishkar and Zebulun, had not cleansed themselves, yet they did eat the Passover. So they gonna decide after they done seen everybody else coming that they just gonna come on anyway too. So they probably done rush there and ain't get a chance to prepare themselves like at first. Honestly, yet they did eat the Passover, otherwise then it was written. But Hezekiah prayed for them, saying, the good Elohim pardon everyone. You know what I'm saying? So they made, what I'm saying, they was eating. All right, now as you get to chapter 34 of King Josiah, you'll see that the tribes that wasn't mentioned during his great grandfather time, because King Hezekiah is his great grandfather. So if you look at King Josiah history, you'll see that the tribes that wasn't mentioned during King Hezekiah time is gonna be mentioned during his time. And guess what? The Assyrians wasn't even on the map. They just about wiped out. The Scythians just about and wiped them out, and it's probably just a few of them left. It's probably just a few of them left. They put the hurting on the Assyrian Empire. The Scythians did. The Babylonians and the Chaldeans. You know what I'm saying? They destroyed them. And I got videos about them explaining their history and what happened. Okay, if you read King Josiah's history, you'll see all the tribes there and that he cleaned up the whole Israel. So it would make it impossible for it to be a 10 lost tribes or any lost tribes, and that I can show that all the people went into Africa. You see what I'm saying? And that we was all enslaved, because I'm gonna show you that none of the tribes couldn't have made it to the Americas before the transatlantic slave trade, because we had Hebrew customs that we couldn't depart with. Like we had houses with windows. We made bricks in Egypt. That's what they enslaved us and had us doing, making bricks. We made bricks in Egypt, so we knew how to build houses, and that we had carts that had wheels, and we know that you have to invent an axle that the wheel go on in order to have a transportation, wheels. And we know that the natives and the other people in the Western Hemisphere didn't have none of that. They didn't have no sheep. They didn't have no goats. All this stuff was brung over here by the Sephardi Jews when they came from Spain. When they came from Spain. When they came from Spain in Portugal. You know what I'm saying? When they came from Spain and Portugal, man, and then they sailed on down the, on down the coast, West Africa. You know what I'm saying? And then they just shot straight over here. You know what I'm saying? Them Jews did with the horses and the sheeps and the cattle and the carts and the wheel and all this stuff. And that the natives were hunters and gatherers in America. You know what I'm saying? We know they was hunters and gatherers, and that they moved around with the buffaloes. Wherever the buffalo went, that's where they went. And that they didn't stay in no spot planting no wheat and having no crops and having no houses with roofs and windows, with carts and chariots and horses and all that stuff that we had. And the Bible showed that we had a custom in the culture different from the people in the Americas. You know, now this is what you Hebrews be getting confused about, is that it's people with pigmentation all over the earth. All over the earth. All over the earth. 9 out of 10, if your ancestors didn't mix with the Nephilims and Raphalims, or the people that did mix with them that had Tezzeret, you know what I'm saying? That's the real form of leprosy. It's called Tezzeret. And if they didn't have that, then 9 out of 10, they going to have some pigmentation. You see what I'm saying? But the more you mix with the people that come out the Caucasus and up out the cold region that had Tezzeret on them, like the Nephilims come from them parts, then you going to have a lighter skin. You see what I'm saying? And that's what the whole struggle was about, is that the Edomites and the Amorites and all them had mixed with them Nephilims and them Raphalims, Cain descendants. You see what I'm saying? And they had lost their pigmentation, and that they was trying to drive everybody that way. They wanted everybody to lose their pigmentation because Cain had lost his pigmentation from killing his brother Abel, and the Creator put a mark on him. So the whole thing is about to get you to lose your pigmentation, or lose as much of it as they can get you to lose. You see what I'm saying? And that's what they've been about. All right. Them the people that created the myths. All right. If you look at King Josiah, like I say, King Josiah was around, and he had all the tribes with him. And Josiah was 8 years old. This is 2 Chronicles chapter 30. Josiah was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned in Jerusalem 130 years, and he did that which was right in the sight of the Elohim, and walked in the ways of David his father, and declined neither to the right hand or to the left. But in the 8th year of his reign, while he was yet young, he began to seek after the Elohim of David his father. And in the 12th year he began to purge Judah and Jerusalem from the high places, in the groves, in the carved images, in the molten images. And they break down the altars of Balaam in the presence, in his presence, in the images that were on high above him. He cut down in the grove, and he carved in the carved images, in the molten images. He break in pieces and made dust of them, and strode it upon the graves of them that had sacrificed unto them. This was a prophecy. You know, he was a prophecy king that come to pass from from 931 BC, when Jeroboam bring those golden calves out on us from Egypt, from when wicked Solomon chased him into Egypt, and then the Egyptians recruited him, and he come out with them golden calves and put us on us. And that would cause us to break down, and that would cause the northern kingdom to lose their strength to resist the Assyrians kidnapping them and taking them to fight in their army and stuff, because they only took the northern kingdom's army and people, you know, that could fight and stuff, and that they didn't take everybody. As I'm showing, all the tribes are still here. All right. All right, but they break down the altars of Balaam in his presence, in the images that were on high above them. He cut down in the groves, in the carved images, in the molten images. He break in pieces and made dust of them, and strode it upon the graves of them that had sacrificed unto them. And he burnt the bones of the priests upon their altars, and cleansed Judah and Jerusalem. And so did he in the cities of Manasseh, Ephraim, and Simon, even unto Naphtali, with their mattucks round about. So he naming all the tribes that wasn't mentioned during his great grandfather time. So we know that if they was around then during King Josiah time, that they gonna be around during his great grandfather time, King Hezekiah. You see what I'm saying? So if they're around then they gonna be. If they're around doing King Hezekiah time, and still around doing King Josiah time, then that mean it wasn't no 10 lost tribes. You see what I'm saying? And that's a myth, as I'm showing. All right. And when he had breaking down the altars and the groves and had beaten the the graven images into powder and cut down all the idols throughout all the land of Israel, he returned to Jerusalem. You see what I'm saying? So here it is. He just cleaned up the whole Jerusalem and the whole northern kingdom. He just cleaned them up. And we was clean for 30 years till the Egyptians come out, you know what I'm saying, and kill him. And look, you can read some more. Now, in the 18th year of his reign, when he had purged the land and the house, he sent Shaphan the son of Azaliah and Maaseiah the governor of the city, and Joel the son of Jehoaz the recorder, to repair the house of the Elohim his Yah. And when they come to Halakah the high priest, that's going to be prophet Jeremiah's father, they delivered the money that was brought into the house of Yah, which the Levites that had kept the doors had gathered of the hand of Manasseh and Ephraim, and of the remainder of Israel, and all Judah and Benjamin, and they returned to Jerusalem. You see what I'm saying? So, it never was no 10 lost tribes. You see what I'm saying? And this is in 640 BC. The whole Assyrian war is over. The Assyrian war is over when King Josiah come around. He was a prophecy king, so the creator gonna give him a chance to do what he's supposed to do, to clean up everything. You see what I'm saying? And basically our sins was reset to zero during his reign, after he cleaned up the whole Israel from north to south, from Jerusalem all the way to to Dan. Our whole inheritance he cleaned up. And that was our time to stay right and be straight. But them Hamites, those Egyptians, came out and killed him because they wanted us on that Egyptian religion so they can come across the promised land and do trade with the people in Mesopotamia and continue they idolatry worshiping trade that they did all over the Mediterranean and Mesopotamia area. You see what I'm saying? And they even went to other far off lands, taking their idol worship there and stuff. And we was a new culture that Moses had got, Prophet Moses got, and it was supposed to cut the Egyptians off, and it was supposed to cut the folks in Mesopotamia off, because if you look at our inheritance, it went all the way from the Nile all the way to the Euphrates. So we were supposed to get rid of that Egyptian, Amorite, Babylonian culture that was dominating the world, and that the law that Moses gave us was going to get rid of that. You see what I'm saying? So it's basically, what it boiled down to is that the Egyptians tricked us out of our heritage, and the Babylonian scribes who were kindred to them is covering the history up with the myths, because we abandoned our heritage to the Sephardi, and the Ashkenazi Jews. And I can prove this real easy. All right, so we see that King Hezekiah got everybody at home. You see what I'm saying? He got everybody at home. And we see King Josiah got everybody at home. So that dispels the 10 lost tribe myth. But let's go and see who the Assyrians took. All praise be Almighty Yah. I turned right to it. You see that. All right, if you go to First Chronicles chapter 18, these gonna be the fighters. You see what I'm saying? The people who really put the work in, who lived on the east side of the Jordan. They was at risk, but they was the fighters. And these are the people that the Assyrians needed badly to help them fight them Scythian Ashkenazi folks that was coming out the mountains. You see what I'm saying? And they needed these folks back too, because Assyria was doing some rebuilding in their empire and stuff. And if you look at the history outside the Tanakh, with the era that we was kidnapped in, you will see that those people had their towns and their empire repaired, build up, are made new. You see what I'm saying? So they would come kidnap us. That's like Babylon had us making bricks, just like Nebuchadnezzar made us make 1,000,000 bricks, just like Egypt had us making bricks, building a civilization and they inner cities and stuff up. And that's what America did to us too when they brought us over here as slaves. They made us build this country up. It's a continuous story and stuff. And then they incorporate us into their army the same way that Assyria and Egypt and all them other folks did. It's the same thing over and over and over. But we gonna wake up this time. All right. First Chronicles chapter First Chronicles chapter 5 verse 18. The sons of Reuben, the Gadites, and the half tribe of Manasseh, valiant men able to bear buckler and sword and to shoot with bow, skillful in war, and were 40,703 that went out to war. And then them the warriors right there. Them the warriors. Them the folks that made up the tribes of Israel fighting the enemies and stuff that tore a hole in the Amorites and all them folks. It was them. All right. And then as you get on over to verse 26, you will see it says, and the Yah of Israel stirred up the spirit of Paul, king of Assyria, in the spirit of Talcapneser, king of Assyria, and he carried them away, even the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half tribe of Manasseh, and brought them unto Hela and Horror, and to the river Gonzan unto this day. You see what I'm saying? So they was kidnapped. You know what I'm saying? And then if you go to Job, you know what I'm saying? The Job 2:20, you gonna see that the northern army was taken away. And you know what I'm saying? It's gonna tell you that the northern army was taken away. So these brothers that be pushing them Jewish myths and stuff, it's got to be something behind it, and especially after you know constantly telling them and be showing them the truth and stuff. That's messed up that their eyes can't see and their ears can't hear in this day and time and stuff, because you know it's common sense. You know what I'm saying? All right, if you get right here, all right, it says this is Job 2. This is Job 2 verse 20, and this was wrote in 835 BC. All right, but I will remove far off from you the northern army, and will drive him into a land barren and desolate, with his face toward the east sea, and his hinder part toward the utter sea, and his stink shall come up, and his ill savor shall come up, because he had done great things. You know what I'm saying? That was the northern kingdom's army, you know what I'm saying, got taken to Assyria. It wasn't no 10 lost tribes. Wouldn't make no sense to go take a whole bunch of kids and women and stuff off to Assyria and stuff, and they was just a war nation. That's why come if you read the prophet Jeremiah, who was around during King Josiah's time, you'll see that he was dealing with the tribes of Israel. You see what I'm saying? He was dealing with the tribes of Israel. So, you know, you can see this right here, because if King Josiah was dealing with them, then, you know what I'm saying, and prophet Jeremiah was around, then he was dealing with them. You see what I'm saying? The words of Jeremiah, the son of Halakah, of the priests that were in Anath, in the land of Benjamin, to whom the word of the Elohim came in the days of Josiah, the son of Amon, king of Judah, in the 13th year of his reign. It came also in the days of Jehoiakim, the son of Josiah, king of Judah, and unto the end of the 11th year of Zedekiah, the king of Josiah, king of Judah, unto the carrying away of Jerusalem. So we know that if all those Israelites is there doing King Josiah time, then everybody is gonna be there doing prophet Jeremiah time. And as you read the book of prophet Jeremiah, you're going to see that he sent to Israel. And that he talking to Israel in this message. You see what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? It says it right here. Jeremiah 3 verse 6. All right. Then said the Elohim also unto me in the days of Josiah the king, hast thou seen that which backsliding Israel hath done? She is gone up upon every high mountain and under every green tree, and there had played the harlot. You see what I'm saying? And then as you keep reading, Israel mentioned just all through the book of Jeremiah, because Israel was still around. And this is during the Babylonian captivity, because the prophet Habakkuk called Ashkenazi to come get us up off the land. You see what I'm saying? And they was just destroying Assyria. Them gonna be the people riding around with the body parts, you know what I'm saying, on their horses. You know, them would be the same people that would kill Cyrus and cut his head off and put it on something. You see what I'm saying? When Cyrus was trying to, that was head of the media, you know what I'm saying, the Persian Empire, you know what I'm saying, how he went up to fight the Scythians and try to get them folks, you see what I'm saying, and push them folks back, and how they cut his head off, and how they killed the whole bunch of those Persian kings, you know what I'm saying, trying to get to us and destroy us, that was taken to them parts, Persia and them parts during the Babylonian wars, you know what I'm saying. But the Babylonians had chased the 99%, the millions into Africa, all the tribes during the Babylonian wars, because we all said that we wanted to go in to Africa to worship the Egyptian religion. And if you look at Jeremiah chapter 44 verse 18, let me see, Jeremiah chapter 44 verse 15, 16, 17, and 18, you'll see that it was a state of mind. But before then, you look at verse 2, and this is 33 years, you know, after, this is about 30 years after they done killed King Josiah. We went back to the Egyptian religion, and we got chased up off the land, all the tribes, into Africa. That's why come we all fit the curses, you see what I'm saying? And that's why come we all went through the curses. And that's why come no other people on the face of this earth in no other parts of the world fit the curses that we have went through, because all the tribes went into Africa. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. All right. If you look at Jeremiah chapter 44, the second verse, this said the Elohim of hosts, the Yah of Israel, ye have seen all the evil that I have brought upon Jerusalem and upon all the cities of Judah, and behold, this day they are a desolation, and no man dwelleth therein. Okay, we had, during the Babylonian wars, all the tribes, everybody had to run to Judah, because it was like a fenced wall city, and that's where everybody stayed. Even King Hezekiah had to enlarge the water system. It's history of all that in the Bible, how he had to enlarge the water system, because the tribes of Israel had moved to Judah and to Judah inheritance, because the people was coming from the north and from the east of us, and then they chased us into Africa. You see what I'm saying? Because we said we wanted to do the Egyptian religion. See, history is not what the Jews been teaching or what they got in their books. You see what I'm saying? They've been teaching myths, and that's the lies that these brothers been pushing and stuff. All right, if you get down to Jeremiah chapter 44, and then you get to verse 15, 16, 17, and 18, you'll see that this was a state of mind. Then all the men which knew that their wives had burned incense unto other gods, and all the women that stood by a great multitude, even all the people that dwelled in Egypt and Pathros, answered Jeremiah, saying, as for the word that thou hast spoken unto us in the name of the Elohim, we will not hearken unto thee, but we will certainly do so whatever thing go forth out of our own mouth, to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, as we have done, we and our fathers, our kings, our princes, in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem, for then had we plenty of food and were well and saw no evil. But since we left off to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven and to pour out drink offerings unto her, we have wanted all things and have been consumed by famine. You see what I'm saying? By the sword and by famine. All right. If you go to Second Kings, Second Kings 25. This is during the Babylonian Wars, and this is when they chased all the tribes, all of us, into Africa. See, we wouldn't be known as the tribes of Israel, all the different tribes of Israel no more. We would just be known as Israel and Judah, or just Israel, because during the Babylonian Wars, the prophet Ezekiel was told to take them 10 sticks and bind them together and made us one. And that's why when you seen the people when they came back from Babylon, as Ezra and Nehemiah recorded, that you didn't see them talking about what tribes they was from. They was more or less talking about what family, what father house, and trying to identify themselves that way, and not by what tribes you was from. All right. And all the people, this is 2 Kings chapter 25, verse 26. And all the people, both small and great, and the captains of the armies arose and came to Egypt, for they were afraid of the Chaldees. The Chaldees wasn't nothing but Ashkenazi. Ashkenazi. The Chaldeans wasn't nothing but Ashkenazi. And Ashkenazi were the Scythians that chased us into Africa. You know, they shot the promised land up. You know, when they chased us into Africa, they burnt the temple down and they shot the promised land up. The Scythians did, Ashkenazi. You know, Scythian arrowheads can be, you know what I'm saying, found, you know, and trilobite arrowheads were found at Tel Megiddum, Al-Tatar, Megiddo, Megiddo, Kassim, Quashmona, Samaria, Tel Michael, Gizar, Tel Nasheba, Jerusalem in the city of David, Katif, Hanam, and on the southern hill at Ashkelon, Ekron, Ashdod, Tel Batash, Tel Alhassi, Latish, you know what I'm saying, that's what Dan was. Beth Shemesh, Galim, got En Gedi, Tel Malazar, Rashad, Talwan, the Mount Sinai, everywhere. You know, the Scythians, you know, were the people who made up the Chaldean army, and the Scythians ain't nothing but Ashkenaz. I got plenty of videos explaining this. And they chased us up off the promised land, all the tribes into Africa. And that's like, it's impossible to defeat what Prophet Moses said that the curses would be. You see what I'm saying? And that we would get taken to Egypt in ships. So this brother saying that some of the Hebrews stayed in Africa and all that other stuff. He don't know that them people gonna come from the Edomite Jews who ran across North Africa when Herd Edomite temple was destroyed. You see what I'm saying? So, you know, I have a bunch of history explaining a whole bunch of this stuff. But you see, the prophet Moses said, and the Elohim shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships by the way of where I spake unto thee. You see what I'm saying? So if he say we're going to be taken into Egypt in ships, who is you to say that, you know, the Creator didn't take everybody into Egypt in ships? Because we know that America is the Egypt. I done showed everybody the obelisk that's in Central Park, the Cleopatra Needle, the same one that we was enslaved with when we was in Egypt over there in Africa, and how they got that statue of King Necho, the Pharaoh who killed King Josiah after he cleaned the Egyptian worship up and put us back on the Egyptian religion that would cause the Babylonians them to come chase us off the land into Africa where we were slave from. You know what I'm saying? Where it took the 275 years to bring us out. Slavery got us. You know what I'm saying? Slavery got us. Slavery got us. See what I'm saying? Everybody, didn't nobody escape the Creator's wrath. No Hebrews escaped. It took 275 years to bring us all to the Americas. You see what I'm saying? It took 275 years to bring us here and stuff. Didn't nobody escape the wrath of the Creator. And if you say that we escaped the wrath of the Creator, you telling a lie. You see what I'm saying? You telling a lie. You know what I'm saying? And it's our job to defend the Creator's word. We can't let these brothers come talking about that the Hebrews didn't go through the curses or some of us escaped the curses when there's no history to verify that. You see what I'm saying? That's like I could show, you know what I'm saying, that the Hebrews had windows, you know what I'm saying, and houses, you know what I'm saying, and that we didn't come to the Americas and then have all this knowledge and then didn't use it. You see what I'm saying? If you go to Genesis 26, let's go to Genesis 26:8. Let's see what it say. This show you that we had some houses. You see what I'm saying? And that we had windows to look out of. And we know that the natives didn't have none of that stuff. You see what I'm saying? So then if you get down to 26:8, and it come to pass when he had been there a long time, that Amalek, king of the Philistines, looked out at a window and saw, and behold, Isaac was sporting Rebecca, his wife. So you know what I'm saying? So it was windows around. You know what I'm saying? And then if you go to Judges, let's go to Judges. Let's go to Judges. Let's go to Judges. I think that's 5:28. Judges 5:28. 5:28. Man, we had houses and man, we had houses with roofs. We had carts with axles with wheels, and we had sheeps. Man, we had goats. You see what I'm saying? Man, we had plenty of sheeps and goats and stuff. And the natives didn't have none of that. You know what I'm saying? The natives didn't have none of that. So then if you get down to 28, the mother of Sisera looked out a window and carried through the lattice. Why is his chariot so long in coming? You know what I'm saying? They had chariots, man. We had chariots back then. You see what I'm saying? We had chariots. You see what I'm saying? And we know King David looked out, you know what I'm saying, the windows and stuff. And man, if you go to 2 Kings verse 16. Let me see. Let me see. 2 Kings 6:16, I think. Let's see. 2 Samuel. That'll be 2 Samuel 6:16. And as the ark of the Elohim came into the city of David, Michal, Saul's daughter, looked through a window and saw King David leaping and dancing. So we had houses with windows and stuff. Can't nobody show no natives having no houses with no windows and stuff during the conquest of America and before the Europeans came over from Spain. You know what I'm saying? Came over from Spain, from Portugal and Spain, and then sailed over there with the little knowledge that they had gotten from us, from the promised land, and then brung that stuff to America. You know what I'm saying? Them natives didn't have none of that. So, you know, these brothers can cut that mess out. They can cut that mess out talking about that the natives and all those folks are Hebrews, when I just showed that all the tribes was there up to the Babylonian wars, and that we all went into Africa, and that's where we was enslaved from. So these brothers can cut that mess out, and you Hebrews can easily show people